Welcome to Aligned, a podcast for lawyers and other high achievers seeking deeper meaning, purpose, and joy in their work and lives. My name is Jessie Brown. I practiced law for 15 years before becoming a professional coach for lawyers, and I also facilitate workshops for law firms on burnout prevention, and I facilitate retreats for women in Sedona, Arizona, and those retreats include sound bathing, forest bathing, breath work, hiking. They're very nature-based wellness type retreats. So I'm really glad you're here. And in season 1 of this podcast, which the podcast at that time was under the name Returning to Soul, so this is the same podcast, just a little bit of a rebrand, we explored what it looks like to create a career that really aligns with our strengths and values. So a career that aligns with who we are, what matters most to us in our current stage of life. And we had some wonderful guests on the podcast last season. So if you've missed those episodes, I encourage you to check them out. And this season 2, we are going to be exploring how to actually create that career. And what I mean by that is we create a career that is aligned with who we are and what matters most to us by clarifying what it is we truly want, getting to know ourselves on a deep level, and often facing internal fears and resistance that might come up as we're trying to make some of those changes and new choices. And we are also learning to navigate our work and lives by looking within and relying on our own inner guidance. And that's a lot of what we're going to be exploring this season. So I have some wonderful guests lined up for you that are experts in intuition or decision making and can really help you get clarity on how to make those choices. And, today something I wanted to introduce you to is the concept of navigating our career and our lives using our whole brain. And this comes from the work of Dr. Jill Bolte Taylor, who is just an amazing scientist and human and author if you're not familiar with her work. And I will drop a link in the show notes to her TED Talk, which was the very first TED Talk to ever go viral. It's an amazing TED Talk. And if you don't know a little bit about her story, Jill was a Harvard neuroanatomist who in her mid to late 30s, really the height of her career, she was very successful. She had a left brain stroke. So over the course of 4 hours, her left brain went completely offline, and she lived in a state of just right brain awareness for a period of time before the left brain was able to be restored. And it took 8 years for the left brain to come completely back online for Jill. So she's written a couple of books about her experience. One is her memoir, and the second book is what I wanted to share with you guys today. Is called Whole Brain Living. And I find this book to be so fascinating, so helpful, and especially relevant for lawyers or other professionals who are seeking to make changes in their career, perhaps going through a transition, a job change, a career transition, or other, courageous choices. And when we consider choices like that, we often feel confused. It's very normal. And we also, may take 2 steps forward, 1 step back. It's not necessarily a linear path when we're going through a transition like that. It's often called the messy middle for a reason. And that transition period is often compared to what a caterpillar goes through on the way to becoming a butterfly. So we know the caterpillar dissolves into goo in a chrysalis and then slowly, becomes a butterfly, and then has to use its strength to escape the chrysalis to really fly. So there's this whole process involved, and that metaphor is commonly used to describe transitions in life, including career transitions. So many of the people I talk to, lawyers and other professionals, they are really feeling that messy middle. And when we're in that place, it can feel confusing, and sometimes we don't know how to make the best choices going forward. So this model, whole brain living, I think can really help us make those choices with our entire brain, all of our intelligence, our intuition, bringing in the head, the heart, the body, all of us to navigate these changes. So today I'd like to provide a brief overview of the model, and I do encourage you to read the book. Also, the audio version is great. I've listened to it on audio and I have the hard copy because I really love it that much. But Dr. Jill Bolte Taylor narrates the audiobook, so it's lovely to listen to as well if you prefer that. And her model basically takes the two hemispheres of the brain. It's a little bit of a simplification, but I think it's really useful. It's a useful tool, a useful map. So she divides the brain into 4 characters. So we can think of this as like 4 different personalities. And for those of you who are familiar with parts work or internal family systems work, I think this model aligns really well with that type of work. And there are many psychologists and other thinkers out there who've identified basically the human personality consisting of different parts, of subpersonalities. So this is why many of us experience internal conflict, and it can be like a gridlock inside of us, especially when we're making hard choices. So, or career changes, changes to something we've experienced for a long time. So maybe we're really comfortable in a certain situation. It's provided, some security or something like that for us, and we're looking to make a change. We can often experience a lot of internal conflict in those situations. So Jill basically divides the brain up into 4 characters. And on the left side, she calls these characters 1 and 2, and on the right side, characters 3 and 4. And to simplify and help you guys hopefully remember this, she's identified 2 primary thinking characters up front and 2 primarily emotional feeling characters toward the back. And the way I like to think of it is these 2 characters in the front are like the parents in the front seat of the car, and the 2 characters in the back are like the children in the back. And the left character 2, the emotional character 2, is really like a young child. It tends to get afraid easily and really wants to be kept safe. And the other character, the emotional one, which she calls character 3, I think of it more like our teenage self or maybe our young adult college age self. And I'm going to give you a brief overview of these 4 characters to help explain why I think bringing all 4 characters to the table when navigating our career is so important. So, characters 1 and 2, this is our left hemisphere. Character 1 is, I think of it as the quintessential, successful lawyer or other professional. This is our analytical, rational, logical thinking brain that helps us get stuff done, stick with deadlines, stick with timelines. It's what helps us, maintain a schedule, all of the things, and really just function in the world. It's what helps us, accomplish anything, be productive. So this is how we end up, paying our bills, making doctor appointments, picking our kids up on time, and then almost everything we do with work if you're, a lawyer or other similar professional. So that's character 1. And if you know IFS, that model, I think of character 1, the thinking part of our left brain, as containing what we call our managers. So these are the parts of us that manage our life. And they're very valuable, obviously. Character 2 is the emotional character on the left hemisphere. And that is basically associated with feelings such as fear, perhaps anger, and what we think of as the difficult, challenging emotions. So this tends to be a younger part of us that is maybe wounded or easily, hurt or things like that. So we may feel all kinds of difficult feelings. And this is just part of being human. It's very normal. And if we live predominantly in that left hemisphere and those characters 1 and 2, which I lived that way for many years, and I see a lot of professionals and lawyers who live like this. We may be highly productive. There's a lot of people who are predominantly character 1. So these are going to look like you're really successful professionals. They get a lot done. They're very efficient, very effective, very good at what they do. They might be lacking in joy, in aliveness and vitality and passion, in creativity. They may feel a little bit disconnected from their body and the joy that we can experience in our body. So as we'll talk about that, that's more of the character 3. So that's a predominant character 1. And I find that a lot of us are living most of our time in that character and missing out on what it is, what else is available to us. So, and Jill Bolte Taylor herself says that she was predominantly a character 1 until her stroke. And now she says she's really a, right brain character 3/4. She opts to live in that place most of the time, and she chooses to call on her character 1 when she needs to get something done, to pay her taxes, to give a presentation or do something for work, that type of thing. So characters, that's 1 and 2, that's on our left hemisphere. And this is what we tend to be very familiar with if you are a lawyer or successful professional. So characters 3 and 4, we'll talk about those a little bit now. So character 3 is what she identifies as the feeling emotional part of our right brain. And she describes this part of our brain as when we are really living in the present. We're very connected with, the joy in our bodies. It's the part of us that likes an adrenaline rush, that likes an adventure. It's the part of us that wants to dance or wants to go for a run or wants to climb to the top of the mountain. It's the part that loves creativity, that wants to just, play with paint or clay or, draw or something like that, or make music or dance to music or go to a concert. So it's this experiential sensory part of us that lives in the present moment. And it really is the source of our joy, our aliveness, and so much just vitality of being alive and connection with other people. So it's like the fun part, when we're truly having a good time and having fun, when we're laughing and we're just enjoying ourselves, enjoying life. So that's our character 3. And character 4 is an interesting one. It is what she says, it's the part of us that is really that witness consciousness, that observer, that ability to observe our inner state, observe other people, and have a really wise perspective on a situation. It's also the part of us that is connected to something greater than ourselves, to that sense of oneness, and that experiences emotions such as gratitude or unconditional love. So the way I see it, it's as though character 4 is really what character 2 needs. So, and what I mean by that is character 2 is that young part of us that tends to get fearful or have our feelings hurt or maybe be angry. And then character 4 is that wise, grounded presence that can really hold space for difficult emotions and allow those storms to pass. And I see characters 1 and 3 as being a wonderful team, because 1 is that part of us that is productive and efficient and gets stuff done and is logical and can think through something and can create a plan. However, character 3 brings the fun and the joy and the creativity and the adventure and the excitement. So they balance each other out really well. So I want to ask you guys a question, something to think about. If you were predominantly in character 1, you could do this for each of your 4 characters. If you're on the brink of making a career decision, maybe you're thinking about taking a different job that would require a pay cut. So a lot of people I talk to want to go from working in a large law firm to going in-house, working in a corporate legal department, and that often involves a pay cut, at least at first. Sometimes a very substantial pay cut. So if you were thinking about making that particular choice, or a career transition, that's an even bigger change, you could consider each of your 4 characters, what would their perspective be on the choice? And if you are predominantly a character 1 person, and in character 1, you still have access to all 4. It's just like a muscle that we can build, to start using these other characters. But if you're predominantly in that thinking logical part of your brain, that part is very risk averse, and its job is to keep us safe. So it's mainly concerned with security, avoiding risk. It's going to think through all of the options, but it's probably going to choose whatever it deems is the most safe, secure, rational, logical, approach or choice. And if there's any uncertainty or the unknown, our character 1 is not going to like that. So character 2, that's that fearful part of us, really is not going to like anything that's like giving up money, financial security, unless we were really pushed to do so, and will definitely be very nervous about a career transition or another big change. So if we're predominantly making these transitions and these choices from our left brain, we may maintain safety and security, but at the expense of aliveness and joy and adventure, and taking some risks that may be really aligned with a very fulfilling career move. So, or just a more balanced life, and really provide that work-life balance that you might be seeking. So now if we bring in character 3, again, if we just let character 3 run the show, our lives might be fun, but perhaps chaotic, and we might not get anything done. So it's not that we just want character 3. This is about whole brain living, whole brain decision making. But when we get the perspective of our character 3, we think about things like, do I enjoy the work? We think about, how would I spend my day at this job? And how do I feel in my body when I think about spending my day in that way? Do I feel energized? Do I feel enthusiastic or not? Does it feel like heavy and a drain and a weight? So our character 3 can provide those insights. How do I feel when I think about this? How does my body respond when I think about making this choice? Our character 3 can bring into consideration things like, will I get to use my creativity in this role? Or if not in the role, at least does the work provide, it's not so demanding that I can do creative pursuits outside of work. The character 3 is the part of us that really likes to exercise and get movement in every day, and likes to be out in nature, and likes to have adventures and play. So character 3 will look at something like balance. How demanding is this job? How much time and energy will I have to go on adventures, to travel, to play, to exercise, to do creative pursuits? Maybe it's you like to go to concerts or festivals, or I have several lawyer clients who, one of them is doing a pottery class, another one is doing an improv class, and another one is doing bachata dancing. So those are all character 3 activities. So character 3 might come to the table and say, let's look at this job. Is it going to allow me to have time and energy to do some of these activities that really make me feel so alive? And character 4 is that wise, grounded presence that really can assure us, no matter what we choose, we're going to be okay. We really will. So that's the part that knows kind of the universe has your back, and also knows that we are resourceful. So whatever choice we make, if we're making a whole brain choice, listening to all of our characters, we're making a really well-informed choice. And even if it doesn't work out in the way we might have expected, we're going to be okay. So that's the perspective character 4 can bring. So this is a little bit of a introduction, a little taster of the 4 character model from Whole Brain Living by Dr. Jill Bolte Taylor, and how you can use this to navigate your own career choices and changes that you might be considering. And I would love to hear how this lands with you, this model. Does it make sense? Does it resonate? And if you decide to pick up the book, I would love to hear what you think about it. I think it's a phenomenal book. And yeah, just let me know in the comments. Please send me an email. I would love to hear your thoughts. So you can reach me at jessie@jessiebrown.org. You can also visit my website, jessiebrown.org, and connect with me through there. I have a newsletter as well that you can sign up for. So let me know. Let me know how this lands. And again, I have some really wonderful guests lined up for you guys that'll be coming on the show in just a few weeks. So stay tuned for that. And